So, the Game Awards has ended, and yeah, that shit was kind of ass. Like, I never really expect too much out of these Jeff Keighley shows, but it feels like in recent years, it's just like the ads and the talking and all of the extra stuff has really taken away from things like the orchestra, things like the games themselves, or people getting recognized. I think the highlights of the show for me was definitely the orchestra pieces. The meta jokes with the Muppets were really on point this year, like those two old puppets. And I think that the Amir guy who was getting recognized as a first ever, I think he was like game changer is what they called it. Those were the peak moments for me. And I'm also glad I chose not to stream this because I was just so bored watching it. Thank you, Alex, for streaming it. Shout out to you, because that was brutal. That was brutal. So just quick thoughts on the overall show before I talk about the game that is the main focus of this video. There was one game that sold the show for me, but we'll get into that in a second. Overall, this show was like very mid for me. I think that the Witcher 4 trailer at the very start, I mean, it's just another CD Projekt Red cinematic trailer. I don't trust them. They ruined Cyberpunk when it launched. It's so great now, and I love that game to death now, but we're gonna have to wait to see gameplay, and people are already calling it woke, even though Geralt is literally, you can hear him in the trailer like he's gonna be in the game. It's just so frustrating. And then the Elden Ring co-op thing looks awesome. Can't wait to play that with friends. It's gonna definitely ruin some friendships though, because some people are a lot better at that game than others. And spoiler alert, Astro Bot won Game of the Year, and I'm very happy for the studio. I know Nintendo is sitting there rubbing their hands that a platforming game in 2024 won Game of the Year. I mean, the studio had even, like, he shouted out Nintendo without being able to say their name, because there's probably some legal clause saying that Nintendo and Sony can't speak about each other, which is weird, even though Sony literally just released Lego Horizon on the Switch, but it's okay. You know, I was sitting there maybe thinking that they were going to announce a Mario Astro Bot or something, or maybe even announce that Astro Bot would come to the Switch. Maybe it'll come to the Switch too. Who knows? But I'm glad Elden Ring did not win Game of the Year, because that would have not been very good. I think they just nominated it to do it to see how people would react, and then they kind of changed their mind. I'm excited to see what the kind of like the players' vote was. It was probably Black Myth, but I mean, for me, it's Metaphor all the way. Okay, but the studio behind the Yakuza franchise and Sega have been very busy because they announced two big things at the Game Awards. The first was Virtua Fighter, however you say it, is coming back. It's the 30th anniversary, and it's going to have a live stream on the 13th, so tomorrow. And they're going to show more of the game. Super cool. I think fighters becoming more prevalent is great for the esports scene, which is one of the most fun to watch, even if you know nothing about fighters like I do. But what caught my eye was immediately after this, we got a look at Project Century. Now, this game, the second they started showing gameplay, when it showed that 1915 text on the screen and the Japanese national flags and the setting, I was hooked immediately. The second we see the main character walking down the street, we see the graphics. This game looks so good, by the way. Like, it looks like if Sleeping Dogs was to get a remaster, this is what I would want it to look like. And almost immediately from the very first over-the-shoulder camera angle, when the main character gets run up on and gets hit, first of all, the hit feels very realistic. And this game looks a lot more realistic than Yakuza does in terms of the combat. It looks a lot grittier, and it made me think that this had something to do with Sleeping Dogs because of how great it looked. I feel like there definitely has to be some inspiration, because the way that the main protagonist is beating people up is just so Sleeping Dog. But then when we get to the scene in the rain with the weapons, oh my God, it looks so good. Now, this game definitely feels grittier than Like a Dragon does, and I really like it. I do like the Yakuza games, don't get me wrong. Just for me, there's a lot of them, and at the same time, they kind of feel larger than life sometimes. They feel a little unrealistic, and that's not a bad thing, by the way. But this game looks like it's gonna be painful. I really wonder how much of a departure this is going to be for the studio, because like I just said, this game looks very different than pretty much anything that they've worked on in a while. And honestly, even their fighter looks really good. Like, it looks really different from what the studio tends to work on, because Yakuza games come out faster than any other franchise. I feel like there's a new one every single year, almost like every 6 months. It feels like there's a new Yakuza game. But this game, I mean, stole the show for me. It looks like there's going to be a story to follow. It looks like the main protagonist is going to really get his hands dirty, and I'm excited for it. I think the only other big thing that really caught my attention at the show, besides the Naughty Dog game at the end, was probably the Mafia trailer. I mean, we didn't really get to see any gameplay, but it did say that it was coming out 2025, so I'm so excited for Mafia, the Old Country. That game also looks really good. It's weird how Project Sentry, a game that came out of nowhere, not only stole the show, but was one of the only big games to really show gameplay. I mean, they could have definitely hammed it up with the fight scenes, but it feels like gameplay compared to everything else that was shown at the show. Now, the Naughty Dog game. This is, I feel like I could do my own video on this game and why it feels so off to me. Now, obviously, it's nothing to do with it being woke yet. We have nothing to see about this game, okay? However, I will say this game looks so generic, like so fucking generic.
Tell me something good.
Well, you're right, it checks out. He's hiding out around the Superior Moon.
Excellent.
It's just another out of space bounty hunter with robots is what it looks like for me. Again, I'm going to hold off on any reservations or any opinions until we actually see gameplay. Oh, that was fun. My controller decided to just kill itself off the table. It's funny, that was my PS5 controller too. Like, it knew I was talking shit about Naughty Dog. And also, Naughty Dog has done a lot of really good things. Obviously, recently, a lot of people don't really like them. Just because I didn't like The Last of Us Part 2 personally doesn't mean that game was atrociously bad by any means. But I didn't vibe with it that well. So it'll be interesting to see how I vibe with this game. They did show a pretty big actor is going to take part in this game, which does give me hope because I like the stuff that actor is in. And he's also a pretty funny dude. So hopefully that everything in here clicks. Hopefully we get to see some gameplay. I did not like at all how this entire show, it felt like Jeff was just hamming things up. And I get it. It's the 10th year anniversary of the show. He's emotional about it, but fuck me. It was like every single thing was coming from the creative team behind the greatest game of all time. And you can't have that many industry leaders when you show no fucking gameplay for anything. And obviously that's not really Jeff's fault because he probably doesn't write the script. He definitely doesn't really have a say in what games go to the Game Awards. At the end of the day, it's up to Sony or Xbox or the bigger named people at the studio. But it just feels so hammy when he's like about to cry at every single announcement. And then Naughty Dog comes and he says that they've been working on this game for 5 years, since 2020, and we see not even half a second of gameplay. Like, I think the part where the main protagonist brings like the sword out, runs on the rocks and jumps at the robot, half of that looked like gameplay, half of it looked like a cutscene. And I get it, the whole trailer was in the game engine, but it's so annoying when you say this game is almost ready, basically, when it's been in development for 5 years and we don't even get to see a scrap, giving me Cyberpunk 2077 vibes. So yeah, if you watched the Game Awards, let me know how you thought in the comment section. I already know how the comment section of this video is going to be. It's going to be very hard to find someone genuine and not just angry. Yeah, while you're on your way down to the comment section, you're going to pass the red subscribe button. Go ahead and click that for more videos just like this one. Check out my Ramble News playlist, which will be at the end of this video. With that, this has been Nate, otherwise known as Wicked, and I will see you guys in the next video.